Hello, this is Andy Lamar with Pepperl+Fuchs, and this is our second installment of Ask an Expert, where we sit down with a product expert and answer questions from customers like you. Today's product expert is Robert Schosker, and Robert is the product manager for our Intrinsic safety and wireless HART products. So Robert, thank you for joining us, and let's get started. So the first question is regarding Zener Barriers, and they ask, what are some of the common reasons for a blown out fuse in a Zener barrier, and how can they troubleshoot this?
Thanks, Andy. That's a great question. There are really only two common reasons why a Zener barrier would have a blown fuse. One is either an overvoltage off the safe area side, usually caused by a failure in a power supply, or a short circuit on the hazardous area side of the Zener barrier. And that's typically caused with the wiring that's running out to the field device. Both of those cause an excess of current to go through the fuse that's inside a Zener barrier and to blow. Now, the easiest way to check that, to see if your fuse is still active or still good, is to basically take a ohm meter and check across the input terminals of the Zener barrier. And if you see a resistance there, you now know that the circuit is still good. If it shows up as an open, and now you know that the fuse has been blown. And well, the barrier either needs to have the Zener fuse replaced or throw a barrier away and get a new one.
All right, Robert, the next question asks, I have a power feed module, KFD2-EB2, and it has a blinking red ERR light. Could you please tell me what this means?
The most common reason why a KFD2-EB2, our power feed module, would have a blinking red light is if there is an error coming from one of the modules it is powering down along our UPR. That red light indicates that one of the barriers has either a lead breakage or a short circuit indication to that module. It's a way for us to give you a visual indication that that group of barriers, there may be a problem existing on there. The other option could be is if the barrier itself is having a malfunction. Either way, whether it's one of our isolated barriers or the module itself is having an error, the module gives you that red light to indicate that there is something wrong, and also a relay contact so that you can have maybe a notification back at the DCS that something is wrong.
All right, Robert, this is the last question for this segment, and they ask, I'm looking for a barrier that will be able to connect to a device located in a Class 1 Div 2 area. Is this possible?
Another great question, Andy. In reality, you could put a barrier in front of a Class 1 Div 2 device if you wanted to, but it really doesn't solve your problem. If you're going into a hazardous area like a Class 1 Div 2, you don't necessarily need to use a barrier or intrinsic safety to get that device out there. You can just use a device that is rated for that area, assuming that the device is rated for the Class 1 Div 2 area, and then just use Div 2 or non-incentive wiring techniques that are allowed by the National Electric Code. And that's usually the easiest way to do it.
All right, well, that concludes this segment of Ask an Expert, and I would like to thank Robert Schosker for joining us today, and I would like to thank you for listening. If you have a question, please feel free to give us a call or go to the link below this email. Thanks again.